The steady beeping of hospital monitors was the first thing I heard as consciousness slowly returned. My throat felt raw, my limbs heavy as lead. Through blurry vision, I made out the sterile white ceiling and the fluorescent lights of the ICU. "She's waking up," a nurse's voice called out. "Page Dr. Matthews immediately." My name is Anna Chin, and I had just spent 2 months in a coma following a car accident. But as I would soon discover, a lot can happen in 2 months, especially when you have a sister-in-law who's been waiting years for the perfect opportunity to destroy everything you've built. The next few days passed in a haze of doctors, tests, and painful physical therapy. My body felt foreign, weakened from weeks of disuse, but my mind was sharp, already trying to piece together what I'd missed. It wasn't until Grace, my assistant of 5 years, came to visit that I learned the full extent of what had happened. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she sat beside my bed, clutching a manila envelope. "Anna, I'm so sorry," she began, her voice trembling. I tried to stop them, but there was nothing I could do. "Rebecca, she took everything." The name sent a chill down my spine. Rebecca, my sister-in-law. I had never trusted her, not since the day my brother James brought her home. She had always looked at my thriving marketing agency with barely concealed envy, making snide comments about how lucky I was. "What do you mean she took everything?" I asked, though deep down I already knew. Grace opened the envelope with shaking hands. "2 weeks after your accident, she and James called an emergency board meeting. With you in a coma and no clear timeline for recovery, they voted to dissolve Chin Marketing Group and redistribute the assets." My chest tightened. "They can't do that. I own 60% of the company." "They invoked some kind of emergency clause in the bylaws," Grace explained. "Something about incapacitated leadership." Rebecca had lawyers present. Everything seemed technically legal. I closed my eyes, remembering the day Rebecca had insisted on reviewing our bylaws, claiming she wanted to understand the family business. She had been planning this for years. "What happened to the clients? The employees?" I demanded. Grace's expression darkened. "Rebecca started a new agency, Phoenix Marketing Solutions. She took almost everything, the office lease, equipment, even the client contracts. She approached everyone individually while you were unconscious, convincing them it was the only way to ensure continuity." "And James?" I asked bitterly. "My own brother allowed this?" Grace's eyes softened. "He claims it was the only logical solution. He keeps saying you would have understood, that it was just business." Just business. The words made my blood boil. I had spent 10 years building Chin Marketing from the ground up. Rebecca had swooped in like a vulture the moment I was vulnerable. Grace reached for my hand. "There's more. Rebecca's been spreading rumors, saying the accident wasn't really an accident, that maybe the pressure of running the company was too much, that you were becoming unstable." Of course she would. It wasn't enough to steal my company, she wanted to destroy my reputation too. "How many employees went with her?" I asked. "Most of them," Grace admitted. "She offered everyone positions at Phoenix, saying it was the only way to protect their jobs. Only a few of us refused." I squeezed her hand, grateful for her loyalty. "Thank you, Grace. For everything." She managed a small smile. "What are you going to do?" I thought about the backup plan I'd put in place years ago, after the first time I caught Rebecca trying to access confidential files. A secure server only I knew about, containing copies of every contract, client communication, and proprietary dataset. The offshore account where I'd quietly funneled profits, building a safety net even the board couldn't touch. "First," I said, my voice steady, "I'm going to focus on getting stronger. Then I'll show Rebecca exactly why you should never underestimate someone who's been preparing for every possibility." Grace's eyes widened slightly. She knew that tone. It didn't mean I was angry. It meant I was calculating. The next morning, Rebecca herself decided to visit. She strutted into my hospital room like she owned it, designer heels clicking against the linoleum floor, her perfect makeup failing to hide the smug satisfaction in her eyes. "Anna, you're looking well, about as good as can be expected," she said, settling into the chair beside me. "I hope you understand why we had to do what we did. The company couldn't just sit in limbo while you recovered." I studied her face. The face of someone who believed they had won. "Of course," I replied calmly. "Business is business, right?" She smiled, clearly pleased by my apparent acceptance. "Exactly. I'm glad you see it that way. I was worried you might take it personally. Nothing personal about it, I said smoothly, letting my lips curve into a faint smile. Though I have to admire your timing. Very opportunistic. Something flickered in her eyes, uncertainty perhaps, but her confidence quickly returned. She stood, smoothing her designer dress. Well, I should go. Lots of meetings today, you know how it is. Oh wait, I suppose you don't anymore. She paused at the door, that smug smile widening. Take care, Anna. Maybe try something less stressful next time. Flower arranging, perhaps? As she walked out, I thought about the USB drive hidden in my home office. The one containing evidence of every questionable decision Rebecca had ever made. Unauthorized client contacts, attempted data breaches, financial discrepancies I'd documented but never confronted her about. And I thought about Marcus Chin, my father. Retired now but still one of the most respected names in the industry. He had taught me that success wasn't just about being smart. It was about being patient. The best revenge, he always said, is the one your enemy never sees coming. Rebecca thought she had won because she acted while I was unconscious. What she didn't realize was that I had been preparing for this since the day I first saw that calculating look in her eyes. She had taken my company, yes. But she had no idea what she had really started. I pressed the call button for the nurse. It was time to step up my therapy. I needed to be strong enough for what came next. That evening, as I lay in bed reviewing my schedule, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Heard what happened? Ready when you are. It was Marcus, my father's old friend and mentor. Semi-retired now, but still one of the most influential figures in marketing. I smiled, remembering our conversation years ago, when I'd first confessed my suspicions about Rebecca. He had helped me build my contingency plans, introduced me to the right people, and taught me how to weave a safety net so strong that no betrayal could tear it apart. Rebecca had taken my company. But the game was only just beginning. It would be virtually impossible to destroy her outright, Marcus had told me once. The key is to let them think they've won. Let them get comfortable, confident, maybe even a little careless. That's when they make mistakes. I typed back a simple reply. Time to begin. Rebecca had no idea, but her so-called victory was about to become her biggest mistake. She thought she had taken everything from me, but sometimes losing it all is only the beginning. The next few weeks were a blur of physical therapy and careful planning. While my body slowly regained its strength, my mind worked overtime, putting the pieces into place. Grace became my eyes and ears, feeding me updates from Phoenix marketing. There was plenty to report. Rebecca, drunk on her sudden success and convinced of her own brilliance, was already making crucial mistakes. She was over-promising to clients, alienating key employees, and burning through resources at an alarming rate. Classic behavior for someone who knew how to take power but had no idea how to wield it. But the biggest surprise came from James, my brother. At first, his visits were awkward, filled with stammered justifications and weak excuses. She said it was the only way, he kept repeating like a mantra. The lawyers agreed. The board voted. I didn't have a choice. I let him talk, watching guilt gnaw at him. James had always been the softer one, easily swayed by emotion and manipulation. Rebecca had played him perfectly. But her spell was starting to crack. 6 weeks after I woke up, he placed a stack of documents on my bedside table. His hands shook slightly. Something's wrong, he admitted, running a hand through his disheveled hair. The numbers don't add up. I think she's been hiding things. From me. From everyone. I picked up the papers, already knowing what I'd find. Rebecca was skilled at taking, but she had never learned the most important lesson of business. Sustainability requires more than ambition. James, I said softly. What do you want me to do? He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time since it all began. Help me fix this, he whispered. Please, Anna. Before it's too late. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral even as satisfaction coursed through me. Everything was falling into place, exactly as I had anticipated. Rebecca thought she had taken my company, but all she had done was walk into a trap years in the making. The stage was set for phase 2 of my plan. 2 months after waking from my coma, I finally walked out of the hospital on my own 2 feet. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and new beginnings. Grace waited by her car. Ready to go home? Not home, I said, smoothing down my blazer. Take me to the office. It's time to pay Rebecca a visit. Her eyes widened. Are you sure? You haven't been there since. Since Rebecca stole it, I finished, my voice calm. Exactly. Time to see what she's done with my company. The drive to Phoenix Marketing, my old office, was quiet. Pulling into the lot, I noticed the new signage and rebranded logo. It was gaudy, trying too hard to look expensive. Just like Rebecca. Wait in the car, I told Grace. This won't take long. The security guard at the front desk didn't recognize me. A new hire, no doubt. I smiled politely. I have an appointment with Rebecca Chin, I lied smoothly. He frowned at his computer. I don't see anything scheduled. Oh, it must have been overlooked. I'm Anna Chin, her sister-in-law. She's expecting me. Recognition lit his eyes. Of course, Ms. Chin. Please go right up. The elevator ride to the top floor gave me time to prepare. Grace's reports had been thorough. I knew exactly what I would find. Rebecca's voice reached me before I even stepped inside. No, absolutely not, she snapped into the phone. We promised them a full campaign by next week. I don't care if the team is overwhelmed. Make it happen. I entered the doorway. She sat behind my old desk, polished in her expensive suit. But cracks showed, dark circles under her eyes, tension in her shoulders. Running a company wasn't as easy as she thought. She looked up. Genuine shock flashed across her face, then vanished. Anna, she said smoothly, ending her call. What an unexpected surprise. I didn't think you were out of the hospital yet. Clearly, I replied, stepping further in. You've been busy. Her eyes narrowed. Well, someone had to keep things running. The business world doesn't stop just because. Just because you orchestrated a hostile takeover while I was in a coma? I finished pleasantly. Her jaw tightened. It was a legal transfer of assets. Approved by the board. If you're here to cause problems. Actually, I cut her off. I'm here to give you a warning. She laughed, but it sounded forced. A warning? About what? I sat down in one of the visitor chairs, crossing my legs with deliberate calm. Did you really think I wouldn't have contingency plans? That I'd build something this valuable without protecting it? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across her face. What are you talking about? You were so focused on taking my company, I said evenly, that you never stopped to wonder why it was so easy. Why someone who spent 10 years building an empire would leave it vulnerable to a simple boardroom vote. I reached into my bag and placed a USB drive on her desk. This contains copies of every unauthorized server access you attempted over the past 3 years. Every time you tried to steal client data. Every questionable financial transaction you initiated. Every email you sent to undermine my key accounts. The color drained from her face. You're bluffing. Am I? I smiled. It also contains records of the creative accounting you've been using since you took over. The kind that might interest the SEC. She shot to her feet, her composure cracking. Get out. You can't prove anything. I already have, I said, rising smoothly. The difference is I'm giving you a chance to fix this before it all comes crashing down. Fix what? Phoenix Marketing is mine now. You can't touch it. I paused at the door. You have 48 hours to begin transferring control back to me. After that, everything on that drive goes public. Oh, and Rebecca, check your client list tomorrow. You might find it shorter than you expected. Her hand trembled as she reached for the phone. I didn't need to hear the conversation to know she was calling her lawyers. They'd tell her what I already knew: she was trapped. The next morning, chaos erupted at Phoenix Marketing. Major clients withdrew en masse, citing concerns about recent management changes. Rebecca's carefully constructed house of cards was collapsing. What she didn't know was that during my hospital stay, I had been reconnecting with those same clients through Marcus's network. Many had worked with my father. They trusted me. They didn't trust her. By evening, James called me in a panic. Anna, it's falling apart. Rebecca's locked herself in the office, won't talk to anyone. What did you do? Nothing she didn't bring on herself, I replied calmly. Check your email. I sent you some documents you should see. Rebecca's lawyers had contacted mine. They were ready to negotiate. She had finally realized what she was up against. Not just evidence of her illegal activities, but the complete unraveling of everything she had stolen. The meeting was set for the next morning. I arrived early, sitting at the head of the conference table, exactly where I belonged. When Rebecca walked in, she looked like she hadn't slept. James followed close behind, unable to meet my eyes. "Before we begin," I said, addressing the room of lawyers and board members, "I want to make something clear. This isn't about revenge. This is about protecting what I built, what my father built before me." Rebecca snorted. "Right. You're so noble, aren't you, Anna? Always the perfect businesswoman." "No," I replied calmly. "I'm just better at this game than you are. I've had years of practice after all." The terms were simple. Rebecca would step down, transferring all assets and control back to me. In exchange, I wouldn't pursue legal action for her numerous violations of corporate law. She would retain a small settlement, enough to start over somewhere far from my company. "And if I refuse?" she asked, her voice tight. I slid a folder across the table. "Then every document in here becomes public record. Your choice." Her hands trembled as she signed. The strokes of her pen were sharp, angry, etched into the page. As she stood to leave, she paused. "You planned this," she said bitterly. "All of it. You let me think I'd won." I met her gaze steadily. "The difference between us, Rebecca, is that I learned from my father. True success isn't about taking what you want. It's about building something that lasts." She left without another word. James lingered behind, his face a mask of shame and regret. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have seen what she was doing. I should have stopped her." "Yes," I agreed. "You should have. But you can make it right now." Over the next few weeks, I rebuilt everything Rebecca had tried to destroy. Most of the employees returned, grateful for stable leadership again. Clients who had fled Phoenix Marketing signed new contracts with Chin Marketing Group, impressed by how I had handled the crisis. Grace sat across from me, at my real desk this time, reviewing the latest numbers. "We're actually stronger than before," she said with a smile. "The publicity from Rebecca's failed takeover has brought in new business. Everyone loves a comeback story." I thought about the lessons my father had taught me, about patience, preparation, and building something that could withstand any storm. Rebecca had thought she was taking my company, but in the end she had only made it stronger. The security system beeped. I glanced at the monitor showing the front entrance. A familiar figure was walking out, carrying a box of personal belongings. Rebecca's last day. She looked up at the camera, and for a moment our eyes met through the lens. I thought about how different things might have been if she had chosen to build something of her own instead of trying to steal what others had created. But some people never learn. Success isn't about what you can take, it's about what you can create. I turned back to my computer, already focused on the future. Chin Marketing Group wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. And this time I knew without a doubt that what I had built would last.